The illusion of control. Let me ask you something that might hit closer to the truth than we like to admit. How much of your suffering isn't caused by what happened, but by how you expected it to turn out? You had a plan, a vision, a clear picture in your mind of how things should go. But life didn't follow the script. They didn't respond the way you hoped. The result didn't match your effort. And now here you are, not just disappointed by reality, but devastated by the gap between your expectation and what actually happened. And that gap, that's where most of our pain lives. It's not the event itself that breaks us. It's the illusion that we were in control of the outcome. We think, if I do everything right, I deserve this result. If I give my best, they'll appreciate it. If I love well, they won't leave. If I'm kind, life should reward me. But reality doesn't work like that. Life is not a vending machine. You don't insert effort and get exactly what you want. And yet we keep attaching ourselves, not just to action, but to outcome. That's where we begin to suffer. The Stoics saw this clearly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That's what Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal over 2,000 years ago. It wasn't just a quote. It was a way of surviving chaos with dignity. Because he knew, you can't control the economy. You can't control the people you love. You can't control whether something succeeds or fails. But what can you control? Your effort, your intention, your response, your alignment with what you believe is right. That's it. And strangely, that's enough. But we forget this. We give everything and then wait anxiously for applause, validation, success, or justice. And when it doesn't come, we spiral, we blame life, we blame others. Worse, we blame ourselves. But what if the problem was never in your action, but in your attachment to the result? Let me offer you something that changed the way I walk through life. What if you gave your best and let go of the rest? What if you poured yourself fully into the process, but surrendered your grip on how it should end? What would your day feel like if your peace didn't rise and fall with how others reacted? What would your heart feel like if you stopped trying to control how the story unfolds? We've been taught that control equals power, but here's the truth. Letting go is where the real power lives. Because when you stop needing life to bend to your will, you begin to meet it as it is. Not as a threat, but as a teacher. This isn't about giving up. It's about giving your best with full presence and trusting what's beyond you. This is the heart of Stoicism. It's not cold. It's not passive. It's not detachment out of fear. It's emotional maturity. It's wisdom. It's understanding that your worth, your peace, your power, they don't come from controlling life. They come from mastering yourself. So today, I want to invite you to something radical, something simple but life-changing. Do the right thing. Do it with your whole heart. And then let go. Let go of how it's received. Let go of how it's remembered. Let go of what you don't control. Because when you do, you don't just reduce your suffering, you reclaim your life. Now take a deep breath. Are you ready to walk this journey? One act of courage, one moment of surrender at a time? Because this is where we begin, not with control, but with clarity. The outcome addiction. Let me ask you something that might hit close to home. Have you ever poured your heart into something, your time, your energy, your best intentions, only to feel crushed when the outcome didn't go the way you hoped? Maybe you studied for months only to fall short of the grade. Maybe you gave your all in a relationship and they still left. Maybe you showed up consistently for your dream, but the world didn't clap. It hurts, doesn't it? And what hurts most isn't always the thing itself. It's the invisible expectation we wrapped around it. It's the inner bargain we made without realizing. If I try hard enough, surely it will go the way I want. That's the trap, the quiet, subtle, exhausting addiction to outcomes. In today's world, we're conditioned to chase results. We don't just study, we study for the grade. We don't just work, we work for the promotion. We don't just live, we perform, post, and measure our lives by external approval. And while there's nothing wrong with goals, something shifts when we tie our inner peace to the external finish line. Because what happens when we don't win? What happens when we give our best and still don't get what we wanted? We feel like failures. We start doubting our worth. We burn out, not from the effort, but from the emotional attachment. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever hear, because it reminds us that freedom doesn't come from controlling the outcome. It comes from mastering the response. The more we cling to outcomes, the more fragile we become. We begin to measure our self-worth by things outside our control. We become rigid, unable to adapt when life changes course. We lose touch with the present moment, always rushing to some imagined reward just over the horizon. But here's the quiet shift that changes everything. What if you gave your absolute best and released the need for a specific result? What if you studied for wisdom, not the grade? What if you trained for growth, not applause? What if you love fully, not because they'd stay, but because love is who you are? That's not weakness. That's power. That's presence. That's the beginning of inner freedom. Letting go of outcomes doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start showing up with purity of heart. You do the work for the sake of the work. You live with full effort, full integrity, full intention, and then you surrender the rest. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of apatheia. Not apathy, but a calm soul, undisturbed by what it cannot control. So the next time you feel yourself clenching around a result, pause. Ask yourself, can I give 100% and still let go? That's not detachment. That's devotion without desperation. That's living with focus on becoming, not proving. Because in the end, the outcome will come and go. The praise, the failure, the applause, the silence. But who you become in the process, that stays, that grows, that's yours forever. And that is more than enough. Intentional action versus outcome control. Let's clear something up, because when people hear the word detachment, they sometimes think it means apathy. That stoicism is about giving up, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Detachment isn't laziness. It's liberation from the illusion that you can control what's never been yours to control. Stoicism is not about doing less. It's about doing what matters, without clinging to what's beyond your reach. Let me ask you something. Have you ever poured your heart into something? A job application, a new relationship, a project you believed in, and then silence? No reply, no recognition, and suddenly all that effort starts to feel like failure. Why? Because without realizing it, you tied your worth to the result. You made your peace conditional on something you never truly owned. This is where Stoicism gently calls us back. Epictetus once said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." That's the entire backbone of Stoic emotional resilience. To act with intention, but release our grip on how things turn out. Think about this. You can write the best cover letter in the world, polish your resume, prep for hours, show up with integrity, but you can't make someone hire you. You can love someone with everything you've got. Listen, support, show up, but you can't make them feel the same. And trying to force outcomes, that's not power. That's anxiety wearing the mask of control. Stoicism teaches us to flip the script. Instead of asking, how can I get what I want? We ask, how can I show up as the best version of myself, no matter the outcome? Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're building a YouTube channel. You plan content carefully, film with passion, edit for hours. You post your video, and it flops. No views, no engagement. The temptation is to say, what's the point? But that only happens if you believe the result was the point. Now flip it. What if your focus was on building your discipline, sharpening your voice, and contributing value, regardless of the algorithm? Then each video becomes a step forward, no matter what. That's intentional action. You care deeply. You give fully. But you let go of how the world receives it. And the irony? The less you chase validation, the more authentic, grounded, and magnetic you become. Because people feel the difference between someone who's trying to impress them and someone who's simply being real. This mindset is not passive. It's powerful because it anchors you in the only thing you ever had control over: your mind, your actions, your presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So here's a quiet challenge. What's one area in your life where you've been gripping too tightly to the outcome? Maybe it's a conversation you hope will go a certain way, a goal that's not arriving on your timeline, or a person you want to respond with more love, more interest, more anything. What would shift if you showed up fully, preparing, giving, being present, but then step back and let go? Not because you don't care, but because you care wisely. That's the difference between striving with fear and acting with clarity. You're not here to control the future. You're here to live this moment well. And that starts with one small shift. Detach from the outcome. Recommit to your intention. If this resonates with you, stay close. In the next part, we'll look at the emotional traps that make us cling to outcomes even when we know better, and how to release them without losing our fire. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Let me clear something up, because this misunderstanding is quietly stealing your energy. Letting go does not mean giving up. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you've stopped trying. And it definitely doesn't mean you're weak or passive. It means you've chosen clarity over chaos. It means you're acting with strength, not desperation. You see, one of the biggest lies modern life feeds us is this: if you're not obsessing over the result, you're not committed. But the truth? Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who can give their all and still sleep peacefully at night, no matter what happens next. That's what the Stoics practice. Marcus Aurelius wasn't passive. He was a Roman emperor making life and death decisions every day. But he wrote in his journal again and again, do what is necessary, then let it go. Because real discipline is this: you take the shot, you show up fully, and you detach from applause, outcome, and reward. Not because you don't care, but because you've grown strong enough not to need external validation. Letting go isn't stepping back. It's stepping forward with more focus, more calm, and more courage. Let me give you a contrast. People who chase outcomes often burn out fast. They're addicted to recognition, to quick results, to being seen. And when those rewards don't show up, they give up. They spiral. They feel like failures. But people who detach from outcomes, they stay grounded. They don't tie their worth to what others say. They don't collapse when plans shift. They keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's who they've chosen to become. This is not apathy. This is maturity. This is inner mastery. So let me ask you, are you showing up to impress others or to grow? Are you doing the work because you're obsessed with praise or because you believe in the process? There's a quiet strength in letting go. It's the strength to keep moving, whether the world notices or not. It's the strength to build without needing permission to matter. And it's the strength to stay kind, focused, and whole, even in silence. Because the truth is, letting go doesn't end your power. It begins it. And over time, that power becomes something unshakable. You don't just work better, you live better, more grounded, more clear, more free. Why letting go brings peace and strength. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you truly felt at peace? Not because everything was perfect, but because you finally stopped trying to control what you never could. There's a quiet paradox most people miss. The moment you let go, you become stronger, not weaker, not softer, stronger. It sounds strange, doesn't it? We're conditioned to believe that holding tighter means we care more. That stressing, overthinking, overplanning is a sign of dedication. But in reality, it's often a sign of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of not being enough without the outcome. Here's the truth the Stoics understood long ago. You don't gain strength by controlling more. You gain it by mastering yourself, regardless of what happens next. Letting go doesn't mean giving up your goals. It means showing up fully without tying your identity to the results. When you release your grip on the future, something incredible happens. You come back to the present. Your energy stops leaking into what ifs. Your focus sharpens. Your thinking clears. And your nervous system, constantly buzzing with anxiety, finally exhales. Imagine a mountain climber. They don't control the weather, the wind, or the terrain, but they control their breath, their balance, each step forward, steady and deliberate. Now think of an athlete. They train for years, day in and day out, knowing full well there's no guarantee of victory, but they show up anyway, because the discipline, the effort, the process, that's what shapes them, not the trophy. This is what letting go looks like in real life. Not apathy, not avoidance, but total presence, rooted in reality. When you cling to outcomes, you become rigid. You lose flexibility. You fear change. Every unexpected turn feels like a threat. But when you let go, you move with life, not against it. You adapt, you pivot, you grow. And here's something powerful to remember. You also stop needing constant validation. You're no longer performing for approval. You're living in alignment with your values. Your worth is no longer hanging on someone else's reaction. It lives inside you, quiet, steady, unshakable. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it this way: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And what's more liberating than finally releasing what was never yours to carry? So let me ask you, what have you been gripping so tightly that it's actually costing you peace? The job title, the relationship, the timeline, the need to prove yourself? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing to control every detail to feel okay. You still care deeply. You still give your best. But now you do it from a place of inner power, not emotional dependency. And that changes everything. Because when you move from a grounded place, you become more resilient, more focused, more calm, even in the chaos. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you align. You don't crumble, you rise. Over time, this becomes your quiet superpower. You don't just live more lightly, you live more wisely. Not in resistance to life, but in partnership with it. And in a world addicted to control, that kind of inner peace, that kind of quiet strength, it's rare, it's radiant, and it's real. Daily practice for letting go. Let's be honest, letting go sounds beautiful in theory, but how do you actually do it? In real life, on an ordinary Tuesday, when someone disappoints you, or your plans fall apart, or that tight knot of expectation shows up in your chest? Here's the truth. Letting go isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, a quiet discipline. And like any discipline, it must be cultivated with care. Stoic philosophy gives us powerful tools, not for suppressing emotions, but for seeing clearly what's ours and what isn't. So let me offer you a few habits. Simple, but profound. Small rituals that, when practiced consistently, will begin to shift your relationship with control. First, daily journaling. At the end of your day, ask yourself two questions. 1. What did I truly control today? 2. What did I carry that wasn't mine to hold? You might be surprised. Maybe you spend hours trying to control someone else's reaction, or stressing over an outcome already outside your reach. Writing it down brings awareness, and awareness brings freedom, because the more you see the weight you're carrying, the easier it becomes to set it down. Second, build the pause. Before reacting to anything, especially emotionally charged moments, ask yourself, is this within my control? It seems like a small question, but it changes everything. Let's say someone criticizes you. You want to defend yourself, correct them, maybe lash out. But pause. Is their opinion truly in your control? But your response is, your dignity is. This is the moment where self-mastery is built. Not in big dramatic gestures, but in small moments of restraint where you choose presence over reactivity. Third, speak honestly, but don't manipulate. Sometimes we say the truth, but deep down we're still clinging to how others receive it. We want them to agree, to praise us, to understand perfectly. But the Stoic approach is this: say what's true with clarity and compassion. Then let go of their response. You are responsible for the message, not the reception. This frees you from emotional dependency. It makes your words cleaner, your energy lighter. Fourth, work with high standards, but not for applause. Do your work with excellence, but not to be admired, not for likes, comments, promotions, or gold stars. Do it because it's who you are. When you detach from praise, you gain something far greater: integrity, peace, focus. You're no longer performing, you're expressing. You're no longer chasing approval, you're building something real. And finally, return to this mantra as often as you need. Control your input, release the outcome. Say it when you're tempted to micromanage. Say it when the results don't show up fast enough. Say it when fear creeps in and tells you to hold tighter. This is your compass. This is your peace. Because here's the quiet truth. Letting go is not a detachment from life. It's a deeper connection to it. You're no longer distracted by what you can't control. You're no longer bound to things that come and go. You show up with full presence, fully alive in your effort, fully at peace with the outcome. Over time, this doesn't just change how you react. It changes who you are. You become more resilient, more spacious, more grounded, more joyful, not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting it. So I'll leave you with this. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about giving your best and then giving the rest to life. The challenge of doing good without credit. Let me ask you something real. Would you still do the right thing if nobody ever knew you did it? No applause, no recognition, not even a quiet thank you. Would you still show up with integrity, even if the world never clapped? That's not just a test of your kindness, it's the ultimate test of your character. We live in a time where everything feels visible, documented, measured, liked. You do a good deed, someone posts it, you achieve something, you announce it, and before you know it, doing good becomes another form of performing. But Stoicism asks something deeper. It challenges us to ask, who are you when no one's watching? Because true virtue, true strength, isn't found in being praised. It's found in being consistent, quietly, especially when there's no reward in sight. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just do the right thing. The rest, it's not your concern." No dramatics, no seeking validation, just quiet excellence, done for its own sake, done because it aligns with your nature, done because that's who you've chosen to be. But let's be honest, it's not always easy. It's hard to give without being seen, to help without being thanked, to show up fully when no one claps, no one posts, no one even notices. And yet, this is where your inner strength is forged. Imagine this. You help a struggling coworker finish their report without mentioning it to anyone. You donate quietly to a cause you care about without sharing the receipt. You pick up trash in the park when no one's around. Small things, invisible things. But these are the moments that shape the soul. Because the truth is, you're always watching yourself. You're always in relationship with your own conscience. And when you act with silent integrity, you build something deeper than self-esteem. You build self-respect. That's what Stoicism leads us toward. Not a life of applause, but a life of alignment. Not external credit, but internal clarity. So here's your challenge for the week. One silent act of kindness. Just one. Help someone. Encourage someone. Fix something. But don't tell a soul. No hints, no humble brags. Just you, the act, and the stillness that follows. And then write it down. Journal one action you took that no one saw. Describe how it felt. Notice the difference. That journal entry, that's your mirror. It reflects who you are when there's no audience. And that is where your real power lives. Because when you no longer need credit, you're free. When you no longer need praise, you move lightly, wisely, honestly. You don't wait for permission to be kind. You don't wait for recognition to be great. You act because it's who you are, not because of what you'll get. And over time, something magical happens. You become unshakable, rooted, because your goodness doesn't depend on the world. It comes from within you, and that's the kind of strength that never fades. So I'll leave you with this question. Can you become someone who doesn't just do good, but does it in silence, with strength? If the answer is yes, then you're not just practicing stoicism, you're embodying it. And in a noisy world, that kind of quiet power is rare and unforgettable. Detachment makes you unshakable. Let me tell you something that may change how you move through the world. Detachment is not about caring less. It's about caring more deeply, more wisely, about what's actually yours to carry. That's the core of Stoic detachment. Most people hear the word detachment and imagine coldness, apathy, emotional numbness. But that's not what we're talking about here. Detachment is not indifference. It's inner clarity. It's knowing what belongs to you and what never did. And the more you understand that difference, the more unshakable you become. Here's why. We live in a world that constantly pulls at us. People's opinions, unexpected outcomes, emotional chaos that isn't even ours, but still affects us. Without detachment, every little wave knocks you off center. Someone doesn't text back, you spiral. Your project flops. You question your worth. You don't get the approval you were hoping for, and suddenly you shrink. But when you practice Stoic detachment, you begin to anchor your peace where no one can touch it. You say, I care. I show up. I love. I give. But I do not give away my center. You remain grounded because your worth is no longer tied to outcomes. It's not tied to what they say or how things turn out or whether the world claps. And that's emotional freedom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And he was right, because life will never fully go your way. There will be detours, disappointments, delays, but your mind, your mindset, that's always within reach. You can always return to it, train it, guard it. That's the beauty of Stoic detachment. It doesn't disconnect you from life. It deepens your relationship with reality because now you're not wishing it were different. You're not clinging to what you can't control. You're present, clear, strong. Let me give you an image to hold on to. Imagine your peace as a candle flame. Without detachment, every gust of wind, every mood, every headline, every rude comment blows it out. But with detachment, you build a glass lantern around that flame. You protect it. Now the winds may howl, but your light stays steady. That's what Stoic detachment does. It makes you calm, not because life is calm, but because you are. So the next time you feel pulled into someone else's drama or caught in a cycle of overthinking about something outside your control, ask yourself, is this truly mine to carry? Or am I giving away my peace for something I can't change? Because the truth is, most of what drains us doesn't belong to us. Most of what disturbs our hearts was never ours to fix. And when you release that, when you return to what is yours, your thoughts, your choices, your responses, you become steady, resilient, unshakable. And over time, you don't just survive storms, you walk through them with presence and power. Not because life got easier, but because you did. So I'll leave you with this. Don't harden. Don't close your heart. Just get clear on what's truly yours and let the rest pass. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Let go and be free. Let me leave you with this. You were never meant to carry the weight of the entire world. You were never meant to control every twist, every outcome, every reaction. And yet, how often do we try? We cling to the result, to what others think, to who we think we need to be in order to finally feel enough. But here's the truth. You don't need to control everything. You only need to live rightly, to show up with integrity, presence, and courage. And then let the rest unfold. Because forcing life rarely works. And even when it does, it costs us something deeper. Our peace, our center, our clarity. Letting go isn't a sign of weakness. It's a quiet strength. It says, I trust myself. I trust this moment. And I don't need to grip so tightly anymore. That's where true freedom begins. Not in dominating life, but in flowing with it. Not in chasing, but in aligning. Not in being in control of everything, but in being in control of yourself. So remember this mantra. You don't win by forcing outcomes. You win by mastering yourself. That's the Stoic way. That's the path to calm power, to inner stillness, to a life that's lived, not strained. So before you go, I want to ask you something and really take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you clinging too tightly? What outcome, what opinion, what storyline are you gripping with white knuckles? And what might it feel like to finally let go? Not to give up, but to breathe again. Letting go doesn't make you passive. It makes you present. It makes you powerful. Not because you control the world, but because you no longer let the world control you. And that is a life worth living.